We recently and tragically lost a giant in the world of film. This is our humble tribute to Rob Reiner. Welcome to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. We hope you enjoyed the show.
So we lost Rob Reiner a couple weeks ago as we record this.
Yeah.
And if there is a fixture of the world of entertainment that is our period of time, the 80s and 90s, it's probably Rob Reiner. Between his presence on TV in the 70s when we were kids, then all the great movies in the 80s and 90s, and he's been around since then doing all kinds of stuff and making the news, whether it's for entertainment reasons or political reasons. He's older than us. He's got to be 10 years older than us, I think, or was, before he died.
Yeah.
uh, but he was definitely kind of he was like the big brother, I think, for me in terms of entertainment, because he was always out there and he was always making interesting stuff and doing different kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I have memories all the way back to when I was a kid watching All in the Family and him playing Meathead. And it's funny because it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I appreciated the what he was doing, because at the time I thought he was a jerk, because he was
Yeah, yeah.
like when I was a young kid, I was watching him like, what a jerk, and you'd sort of side with Archie a little bit. But then as you got older and you appreciated what a great job those two did together, actually the whole cast.
Yeah, because he and Gloria,
Yeah,
what the hell is her name?
I have to
Shit.
look it up.
Yeah, but he and Gloria, that they were the hippie couple living,
Yep.
with his in-laws, living with Archie, and it was just a constant battle. And you're right, I didn't appreciate what was going on in that show until I was much older. But I also watched it every week, now you look back at his acting, you don't really think of him as an actor anymore, but he was a pretty good actor.
Yeah, he was great. And it was Sally Struthers, by the way. She played Gloria.
That's who it was.
And Gene Stapleton playing Edith, and then Carol O'Connor playing Archie Bunker. And I forgot about, I shouldn't have. That's, of course, where the Jeffersons spun off. So there were some great moments between Meathead and Archie. Michael Stivic was his name,
Oh,
where he
that's
was
right.
very progressive in his view. It was a great political show.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I think it must have sunk in. I probably, again, didn't appreciate it as much. When I went back and watched it when I was older, I really started to understand what they were doing, and it was genius. And I don't know if he was a writer or anything, but he was a fantastic actor in that. And then, as you said, he went on to write and direct and produce and just be an enormous force in Hollywood.
Maybe we're giving him a little more credit than we should, because he was a young actor at that point. But the All in Family was the beginning of that Norman Lear dynasty, and a lot of my progressive thoughts in politics, I think, come from watching all of those Norman Lear shows growing up, and
Yeah.
characters like Michael Stevick, they stuck with me to this very day, and obviously they stuck with him too, and those were Rob Reiner's politics, as you can tell, as he got older and became more outspoken in that way. But I think he kind of just more or less stopped acting after All in the Family. He certainly made the decision. I saw a tribute to him on TV a bit, maybe he was on 60 Minutes or something. He started writing and directing pretty much while he was still in that character, and it's one of the reasons he stopped playing that character, why he left the show, was to start making movies. And man, he kind of hit the ground running, I think.
And he crossed one of the most difficult barriers that exist. I actually liked him, and he was a popular director.
Yes.
His his movies were popular, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but especially that six film run that he had that I've heard mentioned a lot about what a like questioning if any directors have had such a great run of films consecutively. And all those were very popular, and I liked him.
And I did my research for today's episode was last night I watched The Sure Thing, and that's one of those movies that fell in this kind of magic decade of Rob Reiner films. But I forgot as I was watching it and hearing all of these lines that I hadn't heard in quite some time, because I probably haven't watched that movie in 10 years. Uh, I forgot how much you and I, and Joe in particular, loved that movie and how often we quoted that movie on a regular basis.
You're a good looking guy.
Exactly. I kind of forgot that was in that movie. You are too, cowboy guy. I think we've decided as we begin season 11 of Third Song In that we've decided we're not going to do the Loft of Wisdom, or at least it's going to go on a hiatus for a while. So we aren't going to be posting quotes on the website, but that movie is so jammed with great quotes. And I say great, I'm not sure if they're great or not, but they're definitely quotes that you and I said to each other up to and including, I don't know, yesterday when we were talking. It's just completely in my development as a whatever, a 20 something year old. I watched that movie last night and I first of all, it holds up really well. It's short, but it hits all. It's just a great movie. I gave it a 5 on my Letterboxd, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it as much this time around, based upon how much time had passed. But it's just so good. And that scene in the bar where they tell each other they're good looking and they're getting
Yeah.
drunk. There's a quote I completely forgot because it's Cusack, and we haven't said, but it's a John Cusack vehicle. Tim Robbins plays a bit part in that. The female lead is Daphne Zuniga, who apparently was also she was a TV star after that for a while. I think she was in 90210, which I never watched. But there's a scene where John Cusack is in a bar with those guys, and this old cowboy-looking guy with a long droopy mustache says, "I was in Paris once with my wife. Boy, am I glad she's dead." I completely forgot that line. I literally laughed out loud watching it last night when that came around. But it's such a great. It's a romance. It's a coming of age film, and it's a road movie. And Reiner managed to put all three of those things together in just one of the most perfect, comedic film packages I think that I've ever watched, and it really, really did hold up very well. But that was in the middle of this murderer's row of films that he made from the mid '80s through the early '90s that just I don't think it could ever be matched. And I don't think any of them won huge awards. I don't think there's any Oscar winners in there, although I may be wrong about that. But there were comedies, there was a fantasy, there was a drama that was based on a Stephen King short story. I mean, he was trying everything and really succeeding in just about every case. From 1984, which is when This Is Spinal Tap came out, through at least through When Harry Met Sally in 1989, but as far as I'm concerned, all the way through 1992, which is when A Few Good Men came out. And I mean, it was just different movies. Every single time it was
Yeah.
completely different.
I think that's why I liked him because you would not necessarily guess that, the sure thing fit in with a lot of those teen angst movies from the 80s. And you would have thought it was the guy that did 16 Candles, or at least you could have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all the way up to, I mean, Spinal Tap, which is a mockumentary, which there weren't a whole hell of a lot of those back then. And that was that would sort of set off that trend if there was such a thing. When Harry Met Sally, adult romance comedy, all the way up to A Few Good Men. And I agree, I shortchanged him. There's 7. If you include all the way up to A Few Good Men, that's a run of 7 fantastic movies. And
Yeah.
A Few Good Men is nothing at all like The Sure Thing. But same
No,
director.
yeah, fair to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing about him that I find interesting is that most of the directors I love have an ensemble that they tend to go back to. We talked about the Coen brothers a month or so back, and there are certain actors that are just Coen brothers actors, and you see them come back over and over, and that happens seldom, if at all. Do you see in that run of movies the same actors in going from one movie to the other? Billy Crystal is in The Princess Bride. and he's in When Harry Met Sally, which were back to back in 1987 and 1989. And to my knowledge, that's it. Otherwise, he worked with different actors each time, told different stories each time, and that's really impressive because I don't know that there are a whole lot of directors that could do both of those things.
Mm-mm. No, I agree.
And you mentioned Spinal Tap, so that was kind of the first of his feature films. It came out in 1984, and I think when you talk about making a mockumentary, that set off all of those Christopher Guest movies,
Yep.
some of which I think are better, frankly, than This Is Spinal Tap. But they all owe a complete debt to that. And of course, Christopher Guest was in This Is Spinal Tap and in the sequel, which just came out about a month or so ago. But think about all the television that is now shot as mockumentary style. I
Yep.
mean, all of it. The Office owes a debt to This Is Spinal Tap. Parks and Rec owes a debt to This Is Spinal Tap. I mean, it reaches way, way back because they're all different in their own ways, but they all start kind of with the same basic approach that Reiner took in that film. And it's really amazing when you think about the influence I think he's had on the industry, both in film and in TV.
I had not made that connection, but that's true. Like I said, and there probably are other mockumentaries, but Spinal Tap like made that a genre that others were willing to copy.
I'm not enough of a film historian to say for sure, but there was like a weird faux Beatles documentary that was before This Is Spinal Tap, like the Roodles or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think that Reiner even references that if you would see interviews of him, he would talk about it and how that was an influence. But I think that was the only thing that was an influence. Like I think he took it in a completely different way and a much funnier way and just much more tongue in cheek. And that movie again, because it's in mockumentary style, I think it really holds up. Because anything that seems a little anachronistic or just old timey, just like, well, it's a documentary. It's just that period of time.
Right.
So even now, I think it's very funny.
Yeah, and I had an in-person staff meeting the day after or 2 days after his murder was announced, and I played the "It Goes to 11" scene, which he's in, and is just such a funny.
That
I know it's
scene
been
is so
quoted
good.
a billion times, but one of the funniest scenes ever. And he's great in it too.
Talk about a quotable set of films. I mean, you go through that list; it's just insane how many times. I mean, it's even like the dramas. Most to me, the best quotes are usually from comedies, but A Few Good Men, the line "You can't handle the truth." Well, I probably hear that 4 times a year in all kinds of different scenarios. Somebody says it that I'm talking to, or you hear it on TV from somebody just making a comment or trying to be funny about something else. The Princess Bride, of course, is chock full of quotes. We actually talked a lot about that when we were talking about romantic comedies a while back. It's just amazing to me the output he had in that period of time. Although here's a weird fact. As I was watching The Sure Thing last night and then thinking about this topic for today, I don't know if I ever have seen a Rob Reiner film in the theater when it came out. I believe every one of those films that we just talked about, that run from 84 through 92, I think the first time I saw any one of those films was on VCR, VHS, or possibly DVD.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but I think I might be the same way. In fact, I know I didn't see Spinal Tap anywhere close to when it was released. It was
Yeah, yeah.
many, many years later. Not, not 10, but it was definitely more than 5 years later. Stand By Me, I know for a fact I watched it on like HBO or streaming
Hmm.
service. Princess Bride, same thing. I probably watched it in syndication first, because I definitely didn't. That was one that I came to later. When Harry Met Sally, probably DVD. This is gonna probably surprise you. I've never seen Misery.
Ah, well, I saw it once, definitely on VHS, and it's kind of a horror film. So I watched it like, between my fingers for most of the time, and I've only watched it the one time.
Yeah. And then A Few Good Men, definitely streaming. That was one that I think I deliberately didn't want to go to the theater because it blew up. I mean, it was a huge film, and I think I just wanted to wait. And so a little bit of my popularity thing where I shy away from him. But yeah, I agree, and it's kind of weird considering how huge that all seven of those movies were and are.
Yeah,
So
because they made a huge box office. Everybody but us, I think, went to the theater to see most of them. Not necessarily Spinal Tap, which is very early on, and I think The Princess Bride gained much more popularity after it came out on video as opposed to when it was in the theaters. But I would say that probably half of those movies that came out in that period of time, I bet you and I and probably Joe watched them for the first time on VHS, while we were roommates. I
yeah,
am sure that that's the case with The Sure Thing. I know I never saw it
yes.
in the theater, and I know we watched it together, and that's probably one of the reasons that we continue. I
You're
know that's.
getting all choked up, aren't you?
I just love that movie so much. I'm sure that's one of the reasons that we quoted it incessantly because I think that's one of those movies we probably rented and didn't return for a month or something and just watched it over and over again. But I thought that was a very interesting thing that I didn't see many, if any, Rob Reiner films actually in the theaters when they came out. And I don't know if that's because I wasn't giving him enough credit at the time. Truthfully, with some of them, I probably didn't realize he was a director. Like, I don't think I had, I don't think I was aware that he was the director of A Few Good Men. Even after seeing the movie, I'm not sure it clicked to me or that I saw his name up in the credits because it sure didn't feel like a Rob Reiner movie to me after having seen Spinal Tap and Princess Bride and all that other stuff.
This will probably come across as inadvertently demeaning, but he was like, you talked about him like being a big brother that we, looked up to as an actor. Sort of had that working man, really, like just that was his aura. Like he didn't come across as some big rich Hollywood director, and he was low key in a lot of his stuff, and he didn't make it all about him, which is why I think I liked him. I think that's why I liked him, why I still liked his movies even though they were popular, is he just had a very different feel about him. And I think that's why it was also so hard when you heard that he died. It's like with Phil Hartman. There's certain
Yeah.
people you feel like you can connect with. And again, I know there's been many, many tragic deaths, but there's certain ones that hit in a different way. And Phil Hartman was one like that, and Rob Reiner is another. So
Yeah, and it's funny because I agree with your description of how you perceived him, but the reality was he was from
I know.
Hollywood royalty, right? I mean, he was Carl Reiner's kid. Like he
I
was the
know.
ultimate nepo baby, but he didn't
Yeah.
behave that way. And his and again, I think the core of it was that he was a very progressive, he was a very liberal guy in the best sense of the word, which he believed in individuals and he treated everybody. It sounds like he treated everybody with respect, and whether he was acting with them in All in the Family or whether every actor that they've been quoting over the past few weeks in the tributes to him talk about what a basically what a beautiful human being he was and how generous he was and that's, I think, what shined through not only in the very little acting that I remember him in, but in all these films because they all just have a heart. That's the thing. Different genres, and maybe not Misery, but all of those movies are feel good movies to me. Even the ones that have huge conflicts or scary things in them, like Stand by Me. Particularly his comedies just had this kind of heart of gold, and you loved the characters that were in them, and he obviously was able to draw that out of his actors.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss him. I mean, I didn't know him personally, but he's one of those larger than life figures, even though I just said he's more down to earth, that you feel like you can relate to because he did
Yeah,
seem like he was just a decent person at his core, which makes it even harder.
there's still not enough information about exactly what happened, but
Right.
his obviously he and his wife were killed, and his son has been arrested for that, and it's just awful to even think about. But it clearly is not going to take away from people's perception of him as an artist and as a director and as a person. I don't think.
And I started by saying this was our tribute to him. And with the Rob Reiner episode, we're introducing a new format for the show. We're going to have this season be all about the top five. And Tom and I are going to reveal our top five choices for his best films directed. We'll add up the totals and have a top five for the episode that we will post on our website and other places. Ready to
Yep.
get
So this is
rolling?
not a draft like we've done
Right.
in the past. We've each considered, in this case, the films of Rob Reiner. We've each ranked them for ourselves. We've assigned points. It's a very complicated calculation. It's involving accounting firms and computer programs. But we now have a list of our top five films, the third song in top five Rob Reiner films. And it's funny because we were going to do this for this season, and we started out with kind of broad categories that we were going to use. And then when this awful thing happened to Rob Reiner, I think we both almost simultaneously thought, let's start very specific, and we'll just go with Rob Reiner and his films. So no surprise if you've listened to the last 20 minutes or so of our conversation, but the number one Rob Reiner film, based upon the third song in survey, is The Sure Thing, which came out in 1985 and starred John Cusack and Daphne Zuniga. That's definitely a sentimental pick, I think, for both of us. I'm not sure
Yeah.
it is number one for every Rob Reiner lover, but goddamn, again, having just watched that movie last night again, it is so good. It's so compact. It doesn't, it's amazing to me that it is as short a film as it is because it covered all the bases. It starts on the East Coast, it ends up in California. It's a road trip where they're driving all the way across country. And it was like an hour 40, I think, of the total movie, maybe a little bit more than that. But and it
And then a
also
college and fraternity party movie as well. So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Anthony Edwards is in that, the guy from ER, the doctor from ER. He's the roommate that convinces Cusack to come across country. Nicolette Sheridan is The Sure Thing. Dude, my jaw dropped in the opening credits of that film when they show her, because that's who you see at the very beginning of the movie laying on the beach. It was stunning how beautiful that girl was. But again, chock full of hilarious quotes. Uh, Early on, while they're still in high school, Anthony Edwards and John Cusack, right at the beginning of the movie, John Cusack's character Gibb is trying to pick up a girl, and he, out of the blue, he looks at her. He says, "How would you like to have a sexual encounter so intense it could conceivably change your political views?" And she looks at him and she goes, "What?" And then some like football player looking guy walks up to her and goes, "Hey, you want to dance?" She goes, "Yes," and walks away from him. But that's our number one film, The Sure Thing, which came out in 1985.
And that was your number one and my number two. So both
Yep.
pretty much a consensus. But
Yep. Absolutely.
and after pretty much a consensus number one, The Sure Thing, we had a tie for the second place on the list between The Princess Bride and Stand By Me. Two classics, as we've talked about. The Princess Bride is one of those movies. It's a modern day fairy tale, hilarious. We talked about quotable lines. One of my favorites was it Corey? I probably won't pronounce his name right. Ewis, or I forget the
Oh, Carrie
Carrie
Elwes. That's what it is.
Ellis. There you go. Whatever. I was close.
Yeah.
He won't mind.
We'll get
Um,
an email from Carrie Ellis. Motherfucker.
yeah. You mispronounced my name, you assholes. As You Wish, especially as he's tumbling down the mountain when she shoved him. I say that almost on a monthly basis. I find some reason to say that. But it's also a movie I watched a lot with family. It like, the thread throughout the movie of Billy Crystal's character, I think, reading the story to his grandson, Fred Savage, played by Fred Savage, and this great story to try to get him to go to sleep. Do the same thing with my kids and watch the movie through. So definitely an adult movie, but it had a lot of those same qualities that parents appreciate in the Pixar movies, where it has adult humor and some kid humor, enough to keep them entertained. But just a fantastic movie with one of my favorite. He's always the old guy now. Mandy Patinkin is
Oh
so
yeah.
great in that movie. And obviously a much different character. And then I don't want to overlook Robin Wright. She was great and gorgeous back then. It's just a great, as I said, modern day fairy tale. Very different than all the other stuff that we've talked about, but a Rob Reiner movie through and through.
Yeah, again, had a huge heart. I think you misspoke only because Billy Crystal was such an outsized presence in that
Oh,
movie
he
for a
was
short thing.
the
He was the wizard, Miracle Max.
yes,
Uh,
he
the, the
was.
the reader was Peter Falk,
Yes,
but
yes,
Billy
you're
Crystal's
right.
character, he has the quote that if I repeat a quote from The Princess Bride the most, it's probably Miracle Max saying "To the winch, wench." I don't know why that always makes me laugh, but it always makes me laugh.
As
But
soon as I said that, I thought I was wrong. He was all makeuped up, looking very different. But yes, he was the wizard. Um, sorry, Peter Falk. At least I didn't mispronounce his name, so we're good.
yes, yes, he was the one who pronounced um, Carrie Elwes as being mostly dead. There's so many really interesting, funny little parts to that movie. It's not a movie I thought I wanted to watch when it first came out in the theater. I remember,
Yeah.
consciously deciding not to see that because I didn't know if it was a kids movie. I didn't know what it was. And boy, if there's a movie that is held on in the national consciousness, I mean, that's a lot of people's just favorite film of all time is The Princess Bride. And it's usually for different reasons. It's for different characters. It definitely reached a lot of people.
And let's not forget Andre the Giant's fantastic presence in that
Absolutely.
movie.
He was so good in that movie.
He was. All right, so we had a tie. Do you want to talk about the
Yeah, so what tied with The Princess Bride is Stand By Me. And Stand By Me is it came out in 1986, so just a couple years after The Sure Thing. Reviewing the cast of that surprised me because John Cusack actually does have a role in Stand By Me. And I don't really remember him. I think he was one of the older kids who were assholes, and he wasn't in there for very long. Like he didn't, I don't remember him having a huge impact on the film. But that is again a coming of age film, but about kids much younger than the group that was in The Sure Thing. And I feel like Reiner just captured the feeling of being that age and creating an adventure out of something that wasn't really adventurous. I guess they had heard there was a dead body, so this group
yeah.
of kids wanted to go find the dead body, and uh, it it's just one of those uh, it's one of those films that just really touches you, as I said, and it's about the friendship between these youngsters. And when you look at that cast, it's a huge cast that ended up being great actors in their own right as they got older. But River Phoenix was in that movie. Will Wheaton was kind of the focal point, the perspective character. Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell when he
Yeah.
was the fat buddy, right? Now he's like Mr. Svelte. But the bad guys, the older kids who were assholes, were led by Kiefer Sutherland and John Cusack, who I didn't even remember was in there. Just an outstanding film about being young and your friendships when you were young, and it also had that. It did have the same kind of look back perspective. There was a narrator, and it was clearly telling a story about something that happened in the past, which is similar to what he did in Princess Bride, but just a completely different vibe to the movie than that one. But those two were tied for us for second place in our top five Rob Reiner movies.
And I think you nailed it, just the way it captured that feeling. It was set back in the 50s. And when you hear, like, if someone says it's about a bunch of kids who were going out to find a dead body, it's like, oh, great. Yeah, I want to see that. So, which wasn't, but when you watch it, it's so rewarding. Like, there's
Yeah,
the acting, the writing, just in even when they finally get to the dead body, I thought that was played right. It was or very well. It wasn't. That may have been the end point to where their journey was taking them, but it was the journey itself that was the
yeah,
most important part, which was cool.
absolutely. And I think it speaks to Reiner's talent as a director to be able to work with young actors like that and
Yeah.
still put together a film that is so emotional, so touching, and felt so real as you go through it. It's one thing to work with adults, and obviously these were kids that were good actors and turned out to be good actors. But I'd venture to say that some of that, talent that you see as they get older comes from the fact that they were directed by somebody like Reiner in the first place
Yeah.
and learned how to do it the right way. But I think for whatever reason in my head, that seems like a very valid tie for second would be The Princess Bride and Stand By Me.
I agree. So since we have a tie for second, that'll move us to fourth, and I'm going to ask you to do the fourth because I want to do the fifth.
Gotcha, no problem. And it's funny because fourth for us is A Few Good Men, which just barely made your list, I think, and was ranked relatively high for me. I had it as my second favorite movie. And if you know me, that's kind of odd, only because I'm not a big fan of lawyer flicks. And this is, above all else, a movie about Tom Cruise as a lawyer. And he plays a defense attorney. He's defending a couple guys that have been charged with crimes, military crimes, based upon their behavior at Guantanamo Bay. Everybody knows this movie. Jack Nicholson plays the commander of the base there, who is just a raging asshole, but the most intimidating force you've ever seen. It's about Cruise kind of being a defense guy who literally cruises through his career. He doesn't really give a shit, and he's just kind of, he's a lawyer because his dad was a lawyer, but he doesn't really care about it. And this case brings out the litigator in him and brings out like a love of, being in court and doing these things. It is one of the few movies that I watch now and still makes me like psyched to be a lawyer, because almost nothing else does, including the actual practice of law. But it's a great movie. It's based on a great play. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know who wrote the script for this, but it is a really impressive turn to me that Reiner was able to do a drama like this that has a couple funny parts in it, a couple funny lines from Cruise and some of the other characters, but it's serious as a heart attack, and it's a life and death situation, and it's just outstanding. And it was my pick for my second favorite Rob Reiner movie, and definitely my all-time favorite lawyer movie.
Yeah, and I'm similar in not liking lawyer movies or TV shows. I only watched this one once, I think, but it made a huge impression. It's the best of what it does. It's just still not one of my favorite genres, so that's why it barely cracked my top five. But
Yep.
and that brings us to number five, which is This Is Spinal Tap. We've already talked a little bit about its precedent setting as a mockumentary, the influence on all kinds of other films and TV shows. And it's one that I already said I came to late. It was released in 1984, which is when we both graduated from high school. I didn't see it for at least another 5 years after that. I don't think I wanted to. I thought it'd be kind of silly, and I don't know. It didn't draw me in, especially even though you and I are both huge music lovers, but it turned out to be hilarious, and I've now seen it, 5 or 6 times at least. Quoted many lines. I already said I played the scene. This goes to 11. But what I think was particularly funny, and maybe why I didn't gravitate towards it early, is that I listened to heavy metal that was as cheesy and bad as what Rob Reiner was making fun of. So I may have been a little defensive in 1984 when it came out. But as I moved away from that scene, it's like for some reason it's nowhere close. But I remember going to a Queensryche concert, I think in St. Louis, and it was all theatrical, and people were
Right.
appearing and disappearing, and all the shit on the stage. And I couldn't help but think, huh, Spinal Tap. But
I love that part, the theatrical nature of what they were trying to do and how serious they were taking themselves.
right.
The scene where they were running out of money and they had a Stonehenge built,
Yeah.
and it was like 8 inches high, and it was supposed to be like a stage prop. Oh, still makes me laugh every time. I need to rewatch it. In fact, I've been planning to rewatch it because I want to watch it before I watch the sequel. I don't think
Yeah.
the sequel has done very well. It's streaming now, I think, on Prime. But I absolutely want to see it. But I felt like, you know what? I think I have to watch the original first. And for me, this movie is, as I said, it spawned so many great TV shows, so many great films. I actually like most of the Christopher Guest films more than I like This Is Spinal Tap. But again, you can just see how much Guest owes Rob Reiner in how he put all of those, Best in Show and all the other great Christopher Guest movies, which are also mockumentaries. They owe everything to Spinal Tap, and
Yep.
it again, it really holds. I think I probably haven't seen it for 4 or 5 years, but I remember it holding up the last time I saw it, and I'm going to be watching it very soon. Again, kind of in tribute to Rob Reiner himself, and also so I can feel better about watching the sequel.
So that's our top five. As I said, we'll post it on the website. We strongly encourage you to send us your top five. And if any of those we get, especially those that are different, we'll read them on the next episode or put something on the website. We're hoping this will encourage even more correspondence between us and our listeners. So our email, which we will say multiple times through the rest of the episode, is thirdsongin@gmail.com. You can also go to the website, thirdsonginpodcast.com, and send us a message that way. So we'd love to hear what you think Rob Reiner's best five movies are.
Yeah, because there are a handful that we did not talk about that came after that amazing run, which ended with A Few Good Men, and I'm guessing that some of those films may be people's favorites as well.
And one last comment. I'm sure the sixth one would have been When Harry Met Sally, and we probably offended some for not even including it. But talk about quotable lines. I think I may have said this in a previous episode, but Rob Reiner's mom is the one who said the line after Sally had the fake orgasm at the diner. She's like, I'll have what she's having.
I forgot that was his mom. That's great. That's awesome. All right. Our first regular segment of the episode and our first regular segment of this season 11 are our staff picks.
Just around the corner from you.
Staff picks are where Tom and I will bring attention to new stuff, new music, new books, new movies, new TV shows. Or every once in a while, it'll be something that's new to us. And what do you got for your staff pick, Tom?
So, what I have is a book, and it is relatively new, although I think technically it was published in December of 2025. It's not brand new, but I got it as a Christmas gift. So, I'm really excited to read the book Expensive Basketball, which was written by Shea Serrano. I've mentioned Shea Serrano in the past. He's a kind of a blogger and a podcaster. He currently has a newsletter on Substack that I think I recommended a few episodes back called Good Movie. He does a great movie blog that comes out every Friday where he breaks down one of his favorite movies and does a rewatch of it. He also is a huge pro basketball fan. He's actually, I believe, a giant Tim Duncan and San Antonio Spurs fan. I thumbed through this book at the bookstore before Christmas, and it's just a series of short articles. But his writing style is so funny and so entertaining that although I'm not the biggest NBA fan in the world, I decided I really wanted to read this book. So I put it on my Christmas list, and Santa brought it to me. So I am really looking forward to reading it. And as with most books, once I finish it, I will report back in post facto and let you know if it's as good as I anticipate.
Very nice. All right, I'm sort of going to the heart of what staff picks are, which is going with something that someone else recommended to me. And in this case, it's an online magazine or whatever you call it, website, called savingcountrymusic.com. I've been sharing their top 25 and top songwriter, top artist, on their essential albums of 2025. One of the ones that they mention that I've started to listen to quite a bit is a gentleman named Cole Chaney, and the album is In the Shadow of the Mountain. It's described as a combination of Appalachian folk and Seattle grunge, which is very similar to my last recommendation, but this may have to be a post facto. But this is sort of a two-part staff pick. One, check out Cole Chaney. Two, I'd encourage you, if you like this type of music that Tom and I listen to, check out savingcountrymusic.com. They came out with a cool article just the other day that was timely for me. I'm on YouTube Music, and there's a new release section. It is freaking jam-packed of AI bullshit Like I can barely get to real artist music anymore. One of the ways I'd
Wow.
prep for this is I would look at the new release section and I'm like, oh great, new release, put it on my staff pick. I swear right now, about 75% of the new releases that they're highlighting are AI, and it's not even like creative AI stuff. So I don't know. Some of these streaming
That's
services are going to have
depressing.
to do something about AI. I'm not anti-technology by any stretch. I work in the field, but this I just don't see the value yet of AI music.
Yeah, yeah, you've come across that a lot more than I have, and I think that's because probably because you kind of, as you said, reach out and try to see where new releases are more than I do. Because it hasn't happened to me that as often as it has to you, but it is depressing, particularly when you
It is.
listen to them and they're very
Right.
generic sounding and it just
Yeah, and
seems
this
like a fake shortcut, you know.
it does. And this website basically said that they're demanding that any new music submitted to them, they identify how much is AI and they set whatever the standards are. If it exceeds certain thresholds, I mean, there's certain things that you could probably do. I don't know what it would be, but if it's pretty much all or mostly AI, they will refuse to review it. So I think that's cool. I like that.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, I haven't spent much time on that site. I think I will need to. Yeah, I guess you could, give me a bass line or a drum,
Right. Exactly.
whatever. But they already, you can already do that with drum machines, and that's what people
Yeah,
have done forever. But yeah, when you start talking about lyrics and melodies and chord change, I don't know. It is a little depressing.
it is. So that's our staff picks. And holy crap, that brings us to the not the end of the episode, but the last segment of the episode, which is our playlist picks.
Yep. Every episode of Third Song In includes two playlist picks from your favorite podcasters. Chris and I will each pick a song. We tend to try to pick songs that relate to the our guest or the theme of the episode. But every episode for 10 episodes, we'll each pick two songs and we will post that playlist, which will be called Third Song In Season 11, on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Amazon Music, on YouTube Music. Anywhere you stream your music, you'll find our playlist. And what is the very first song on our Season 11 playlist this time, Chris?
Well, you set me up perfectly when you talked about the tiny Stonehenge.
Yes.
I did do some research about bands that inspired Spinal Tap. So while there is not one single one, there is certainly there's a band called Saxon, who one of the actors toured with and wrote a book about. So they were certainly an influence. Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, with all their stage theatrics were part of it. I almost did an Iron Maiden song that you and I both know and love from college days, but I did not. So I decided to go with, and they also said that bands like Led Zeppelin, and I can't remember the other one that they said, but the pretentiousness and seriousness with which they presented some of their music, the Stonehenge figures and all this other stuff. So I went with Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll, which is very obvious. I tried really hard to find the Smithereens version of Rock and Roll, which you and I
All
saw
right.
in concert, where they
Yep.
said, I may have already said this, but I loved it. They said, "We don't know the words to the song, but we think you do." So they played a perfect rendition of rock and roll, including the guitar solo, which the Smithereens did not do. Their songs were 2.5 minutes, no
Right.
fluff. They purposefully avoided long guitar solos. The point for anyone paying attention was that they could do that shit as well as Led Zeppelin could, but they didn't. So it was a perfect mock up of rock and roll, which I thought would have been a perfect tribute, but I just couldn't find a version from the
Yeah.
Smithereens, so I'll go with the original Rock and Roll by Zeppelin.
Yeah, that is a great first song for any playlist as far as I'm concerned, but it definitely fits the theme as well. A side comment, I think you know that on my personal Facebook page at the first of every month, I suggest a band name that I don't think anybody has ever used. So I keep a list of band names on my phone, and I just included the name Tiny Stonehenge. So if it makes it next month, I will give you credit for because I think that's an awesome band name is Tiny Stonehenge. Anyway, My playlist pick for this very first episode of season 11 is from the Stand By Me soundtrack, which came out in 1986 when the movie came out. It's by Ben E. King, and it is the song Stand By Me. And that is a classic soul song. It's fantastic. The feeling of that song, I think, permeates the whole film. But I hadn't listened to the song either for quite some time, and I listened to it recently as I was thinking about what to pick for this episode, and I just love it. So a little abrupt change from rock and roll to Stand By Me, but that's how this playlist usually works. And both those songs will be on our season 11 playlist, which is out as you listen to this podcast.
All right. Well, welcome to the end of our first episode in season 11, number 101, as Tom wanted. Not a song, but an episode.
Third Song In is recorded in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and Joliet, Illinois. You can email us your questions, your comments, your suggestions, and your favorite Rob Reiner films to thirdsongin@gmail.com.
Look at our website, thirdsonginpodcast.com. You can find a direct link to listen to the episodes. Tom and I do a blog each week. Those are also accessible from the very front page. All the staff picks, previous Loft of Wisdom, everything else is you can go to the top of the page, and there's a link for from our episodes, and all that stuff is there, as will be our top fives.
Please follow us wherever you listen to your podcast. Rate and review us. Give us all your fucking stars. We need all the help we can get. Please get the word out, share it, suggest listening to Third Song In to all of your friends. We really appreciate it.
Also appreciate if you share our playlists on all the streaming services, Spotify, Apple, YouTube Music, and Amazon. Search for Third Song In the titles. We will be starting up the season 11 playlist with this first episode.
You can also follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page, Instagram account, Blue Sky. We post things about Third Song In, but we also try to post links and information about all of our past and future guests.
Talked about the blogs. You can also get to them through Substack. If you look for Third Song In on that app, you can subscribe to us directly. And on Friday mornings, the latest blog we sent to your inbox. Great way to read what we're putting out there.
And please tune in next week. We have a special guest, Washington University alum and noted novelist and writer for television and film, Ben H. Winters. I am a huge fan of Ben, and I am really looking forward to speaking to him next week. So please listen.
Until then, you've been listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Thanks for listening.
That was almost exactly an hour. It should be less than an hour with editing. Take out all the fucking inane bullshit we were trying to do.
Now, I know you're grumpy, but you know what else? You could have just gone with the lowest score wins. So.
Oh, I guess that's true. I guess that's true. Fuck you.
Whatever. Just skip all that. That was insightful.
Yep. Shoot it.
How we get to our top five?
Mm-hmm.
Like not real violent arguments or anything, but
really?
like where
I'm ready to go, man.
I'll slam the phone down and walk away.
Fuck you. This podcast is over.